Probably the best rapper in my opinion is Dale, the Funky Homo Sapien. His wordplay and his ability to change his tempo on a dime is really impressive. Andre 3000's up there with him, and of course Eminem and Nas, and a lot of underground stuff like Atmosphere, Brother Ali. That's what I'm into right now. It's pretty sad, in my opinion. It's become less about the artist, of course, and more about the corporation. Presenting a somewhat immoral, what's the word? Example, I guess, for the youth. It's probably a big deal. Hip hop didn't start out that way. It started as a social movement, graffiti, breakdancing, DJing. You know, it was a whole culture of its own. It was more positive than negative. It's just become negative as the snakes in control have seized it and turned it into what it is now, and that's a tragedy. It's scary the way that people just follow it. You know, they buy a certain brand of food or a certain brand of clothes, and their only source of information is the television. And it seems like people are just very simply just controlled by that because it's just so easy for them. They don't have to make their own choice. The corporation makes the choice for you. And I think people across all history, you know, going back to, you know, pre-urbanized culture, there was always a leader of the tribe, you know, that people followed, and he didn't have a problem leading, you know. And there was certain leaders that people looked up to. So I think the majority of the population is just looking for someone to look up to because, you know, they're unable to make a unique choice for themselves. And the corporation has provided them with an easy choice to make, you know. And they don't no longer have to feel inferior because they know what path to follow because the TV's right there. It shows them what store to buy it at, how much to get, what's considered a good sell or not, what's considered the action you should take in a given situation. People eat that right up. And, you know, it's destruction. You know, corporations an entity that's structure is completely amoral. Its job as an entity is to fuck you in any way it can. And so people become involved in these corporations, and they didn't fuck the individual, or they didn't fuck the other corporation. The corporation as an entity did, because its job is to make money. So it psychologically detaches you from the pain you've caused, especially if you're a part of the organization. And as the person being victimized, you have no one to point your finger at. You have no justice to get, because there's, you know, people sue corporations all the time, but real justice is what I'm talking about. You know, not, you know, financial justice, which sometimes I know is justice enough. It helps, but we're talking about they should. If you do that, you know, you shouldn't even be there if you're going to treat people that way. You know, they did a study where they. This is like in the 50s, I believe, or maybe early 60s. And there's a person in a room, and he screams based on, it's like an experiment. And this one person thinks they're electrocuting this other person in this other room. And it's like a knob, you know, you yank up the surge of energy, you know. And there's a doctor standing there saying, "Oh, just give him a little bit more." And so every time he ups the notch, the guy screams a little louder. And he starts screaming like for his life. You're like, "Ah," you know. And the guy looks over at the doctor and he's like, "Well, should I do it more?" He goes, "Yeah, you can take more." And so as long as people have someone to blame, they don't have to feel guilty. And that's basically what corporations do. In Texas, it's probably what it's always been. You know, there's a lot of plantations around here. And even after slavery was over and the Emancipation Proclamation and all that, there's still slaves here in Texas for I believe up to like 10 years later. You know, they were like the last to find out. And so you kind of see that in the social interaction between the two races, as far as black and white go. But you see, you know, people opening their minds and moving forward. But here in Texas, it's still pretty a lot of friction there. You know, that's why you have a lot of hip hop in Texas that is like more strictly African American, as far as being the style and the beat. You know, and there's not room for much else other than that influence, and that's understandable because it's their music essentially, you know, and they don't want it being taken over like we've taken a lot of their pride, their sense of humanity for a couple hundred years. And I say we as in the white culture, but I'm Irish descent, you know, my family was sharecroppers and indentured servants. So as far as the border situation, you know, I know those people in Mexico are in a bad situation, and that's why they're coming here. And if I was them, I'd be here too. You know, you'd be a fool not to. And at the same time, I think it's the government's responsibility to regulate it. It's a government's responsibility. You know, that pie in the sky government you wish you had. But instead you're left with this not so in your best interest type of control. So they can't regulate it because they can't do anything right, just about, you know what I mean? And so, you know, that's just how it goes. You know, we wish there's been more regulation there, just for the simple fact that you can just look across history and see what waves of immigration have done to the economy of those places that they migrated to. It has nothing to do with who they are. It used to be, it could have been the Saxons when they came into Britain. You know, the economy changed and took a downfall. Just any kind of wave of immigration is going to do that. It has nothing to do with race. It matters none at all. It matters very little other than he's a PR guy. He's the biggest PR ass kisser there is. That's what he is, in my opinion. Whether that or she is. You know, whoever gets the presidency, it doesn't matter because the powers behind the presidency are what really run it. And if people really want to look into it, they would find out that the Federal Reserve, for example, is a private organization that funds all this shit. And who's the Federal Reserve? The most powerful men in the world. And that's where we get all our economy from. So the president automatically kisses their ass just right off the top. And so do a lot of countries, you know. So that's just simple knowledge you can find in 5 minutes, you know, if you really wanted to. But most people don't want to look at evidence like that and come to a conclusion that shit's fucked up. But that alone shows me that shit's fucked up. You know, the president means nothing. He's a figurehead. He's, you know, what can I compare it to? It's almost like the lunchroom monitor or something. You know, he's just kind of just stands there. It's just there he is. You know, he matters little. It's a puppet, obviously. People would like to use that term, puppet. Yeah. She possibly could be a she too. Democrat, Republican don't matter. Partisanship is an illusion. Again, splitting up people and having two teams. Here you go. You know, rewarding them with a candidate who believes what they believe, what they were taught. You know, neither side's any more right than the other. So, yeah, it's all a joke. Well, because they're like rah into believing that their country is sovereign and they get a source of identity from being a member of this giant community, you know. Therefore, they're protected, I think, almost to hold on to that feeling of uniqueness, you know. Instead of realizing that, you know, we're all human beings, all a part of the same earth, all a part of the same universe. We all think we're one little God, one little special little creature, or a group of special little creatures. And it seems like people are scared of what they don't understand too, you know. That's why they choose to go to war, I think, and money reasons, you know. It's either sell dope or join the Marines for a lot of people in this country, you know, so they end up doing that. That's why people join. War in itself, I believe, is some kind of like mass sacrifice, mass murdering being done by this extrasensory, superhuman intelligence that seems to enjoy our slaughter. You know, seems that way. Other than that, war, of course, is horrible, you know. And if everybody just decided not to go, there wouldn't be a war for them to fight. But since people are coerced into that mind state, it's like never going to stop, you know. My ideal lifestyle in a social environment would be barter and trade, let's say technological village of some kind, you know, where everybody has a skill that they're good at and we all share. And I know that's kind of ridiculous to believe because it seems like human nature has been compromised to the point where it could never be that again. But I see when I interact with people and what life could be like in this utopia, barter and trade type small city village system, you know, where everybody knows everybody and people hang out together in social situations and share each other's resources, then there would be no need to charge for a service other than receiving another service from another, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it was like at one point, you know, because it's been compromised and we've been rushed into these urban, overdeveloped, polluted, toxic centers of development, and it's disgusting, you know. And that's why I think that there's some super intelligence that knows how to compromise our nature and is on its way to doing so. The mark of the beast, some kind of chip, some kind of who knows, maybe they can detect the DNA with some kind of, who knows what they come up with in order to track you. And that would be the mark of the beast. That's going to cause problems because those who don't have it are going to be really desperate to get what they need, or they'll be killed. It's going to cause violence because I think once you receive this mark, or once you'll accept this mark as being something you need, I think it turns you into something that's 20% less human than the rest of us. So if they do that to everyone, it's just going to be common nature for people to be assaulted or killed or thrown in some secret prison or starve. Well, they say, well, they should have took the chip. They should have been good little boys and girls. And so whenever someone makes a mistake, or not just a mistake, but they lose their life, these people who have the mark are going to say, well, they should have just been like the rest of us, and they wouldn't be in that situation. So because these people who take the mark they're inferior already because they'll be fucking cattle, and deep down inside they know they're cattle, they hate you even more because you'll stand up, you know. And so I think that's what's really going to cause a problem, is those people who take the mark allowing people to be slaughtered. Therefore they'll be the ones carrying out the violence, most likely.